Okay, so today we're going to start with T-spine. So for T-spine, for the AP and lateral, we're going to use a 14 by 17. You're going to put it in here 17 top to bottom, okay? Put that in there. We can use the rolling shield for the T-spine. And then we're going to set our collimation at 17 top to bottom and leave it at 17, but then we can collimate side to side, okay? So turn that on, and then adjust this just a little bit. They were messing with detent. Make sure we're in detent, and then have you come a little bit this direction. So right about there. So the top of my light field's right underneath his Adam's apple, right? We're centered mid-chest. So like I said, nipple line on most people is a good eyeball factor to be at T7, okay? We're gonna make sure that we're lined up to the bucky. And then your marker placement for this, you can put a marker on your patient in the outer edge of the light field, or I can put it on the wall bucky. So step to the left for me for a second. Why is that not? It shows lined up, but it's clearly not lined
It's
up.
I think the head's cocked a little bit.
Well, like out in, what is going on?
The angle reader is just bad.
Yeah, there we go, and then this is not.
It's
Yeah.
tired.
There we go.
It's probably almost as old as I am.
Okay, so the marker in the top left of the light field, and I'll have Daniel come back there. Make sure you're on his midline, and then collimation side to side, that is good, okay? You don't want it super open, but you don't want to collimate too tight. You know, if they have some type of scoliosis or a little bit of curvature in that spine, you could end up clipping part of the spine. So leave it open a little bit side to side, because most of us have a little bit of slight curvature in our spine, okay? The book says for this that we can do slow, shallow breaths. I personally just have my patients hold their breath on this. Your ribs aren't superimposing over the spine in this one, so we don't need the blur the same way we do in the lateral. So for this one, the patient can just hold their breath. Okay? So that is the AP T-spine. Now, if you do your AP T-spine, we're centered well, our collimation's good, you don't need to move anything when you go from AP to lateral. Okay? Because when he turns to lateral, his body is going to be closer to this light field, and our light field is going to look smaller than it is. Okay, so then if you get in your mind and start adjusting and stuff, you're gonna end up clipping the top or the bottom. So when he turns to the side, we're not gonna do anything with our tube or our image receptor. He's gonna put his arm straight out in front of him. You can sometimes put an IV pole there if your patient needs it. But what this is gonna do is pull his shoulders kind of forward so they're away from the spine. Step to the left here, you're gonna see image receptor. And then forward a little bit. And then right here, as far as your centering goes, you want your light field to just kind of be curving around your patient's back. I don't need extra light field back here, okay? Because he has muscle and skin and fat between his spine and the outside world. So as long as this light is just slightly coming over the back like this, then we're gonna be okay. Now, if you have a patient who's larger, and they have a lot of fat back here, you can follow the neck down, okay? Because the spine is gonna be in the same line. Does that make sense? So if they had 3 inches of fat, we still can follow this down and center on the spine. So you wouldn't need light field behind the spine. Does that make sense? Because we don't wanna open our light field up side to side, because that's gonna produce scatter. So we want the light field to stay collimated and just make sure we're centering on the spine, okay? Breathing instructions for this one is take a deep breath in through a straw, and it's a 3 to 5 second exposure. And that's gonna blur the ribs to get the ribs out of the way of the spine, okay? So that's your lateral T-spine. Questions about that one? No? All right, the last one we're gonna do for T-spine is the swimmer's view. So the swimmer's view is used to view C5 through T3, okay? So that's all of that portion of the spine that's kind of chilling in between the shoulders. So our goal here is to get the shoulders out of the way. So we're gonna put our image receptor in here, 12 top to bottom, okay? Daniel's gonna turn and face that direction again. And then I'm gonna bring this up some. He is gonna bring his left arm up and over his head. Like, here, look at me, like this. So, keep your head straight, though. Like straight. There you go. So, there is a difference in if he were to put his hand on top of his head with the elbow forward facing, that's not going to put any superimposition over the neck. And the thing here is we're using so much technique to come through the shoulders. If we don't have that arm there, the neck is gonna get burnt out. Okay, that's something that you guys will understand a little bit more after exposure class next semester. But we want this arm superimposed here. And then also, if you bring your arm up on your head like this, your shoulder doesn't move out of the way the same way it does if you bring it up like this. That shoulder is really getting out of the way in that position, okay? So left arm up like that. If you have a wall bucky with a handle, they can put their arm just straight in the air, or if that's more comfortable for him, he can do that. And then this right shoulder is gonna come down and his arm's gonna come back. Okay, so what's important is making sure that his spine stays straight in all of this motion, that he's not tilting or twisting or anything, okay? Our centering, go forward a little bit, is gonna be right about there, so still kind of more posterior. And then we're centering on C7. So that's that bony bump on the back of the neck. And if we come to the side, that ends up being about where the shoulder and the neck meet, okay? So we're centering right there where the shoulder and neck meet in line with C7. Then I'm gonna bring my image receptor up, come up, just like that. My marker, it still has to be a left marker because his left side's against the board, and I can come back here in this extra light field there. Okay, this one, he's gonna blow his air out, or he can just hold his breath. All right, so the goal here is this right shoulder is coming down and back, the left shoulder is going up and forward in order to see in between the shoulders. And then we can also do a 5 to 7 degree downward angle. I forgot that part. So a 5 to 7 degree downward angle to come in between those shoulders. Does that make sense? Sorry, I forgot that. So 5 to 7, just a little bit down like that. And this is the swimmer's view. So it gets its name because he's in kind of a swimming position, right? So
The SID, does we leave it at the 40? We don't move it to?
you can leave it at the 40 because it says to go what, 40 to 60?
60
to
60 to 72. We can leave it at 40.
Okay.
That's fine. It says that in the book because it says to compensate for that OID, which, and then as far as collimation goes, at UNM Hospital, they make us leave it open because the radiologists like to be able to count the vertebrae. They like to start at C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that they know exactly which vertebral body they're looking at. Okay, if you have a patient with really large shoulders though, sometimes you do two. You would do one with it open, and then you can do one with it collimated down to really pack your punch and to put all of your x-rays through that area between the shoulders to look at just C7 through T2, okay? So for practicum, you guys can do your collimation either way. So if you were gonna collimate down, get back in position. If you were gonna collimate down, you're still gonna center the same, and then we would close it down to be like right about there, where we're looking at just this part of his spine, okay? But just make sure your collimation is not open any larger than 12 top to bottom. That's my biggest thing, all right? Questions about any of those? No? All right, so that's T-spine. So I want you guys to all practice those.